Hello, welcome to Be a Light with Mushan podcast. This is Mushan Payeski. I have met many inspirational individuals across platforms, organizations across the global. And recently I have met someone so amazing from far away from Israel. Now she is located in Barcelona. Last year, I have joined her program, a pronunciation program. I felt that it has changed my life seriously. And now I have the privilege and the honor to invite my pronunciation coach, life coach, Hadar, to my show. Welcome, Hadar.
Thank you so much, Mushiang, for having me. It's an honor to be here.
I know how busy you have been. Lately, you just launched the new sound program and also relocation from Israel to Barcelona with family. And also you just hosted the meetup for the community, for the Beyond and New Sound and also Fluency community. Yeah, tell me a little bit about the recent events.
Oh my God. I feel like the last 6 months have been insane. Since we moved to Barcelona at the beginning of January, it feels like we've been going nonstop. Like we had a few big projects at work. We enrolled new students into New Sound, which is our signature program. When you move to a new country, there is so much, like you're like launching your life, right? Like it's a new phase of your life. So everything around it was very demanding on so many levels, from like the very small details of managing deliveries to finding a home and planning the whole move and getting a visa and all of that. So I feel like this has been such a huge project for us. And then we had our other projects and then holidays. And then we planned this meetup, this community meetup that has been like the biggest event that I have planned. We never had a wedding party, my partner and I, Gil and myself. And I feel like this was the closest thing to a wedding that we've planned. So it was like a huge event. We had 80 people from all around the world come and meet us here in Barcelona. We had several events. So that is what has been going on. And now I'm like, okay, it's time to rest a little bit. Maybe just for a little bit. Yes.
That's great. Yeah, I could sense the excitement, the joy from all the members who attended that meetup. I wish I could be there.
I wish you could.
Yeah, it's such a wonderful thing you do for the students and for the people to meet in person after meeting everyone online. Actually, I feel like we're very close, but I'm sure the different experiences you would feel when you meet in person.
It just reinforces like the relationships that you feel are real. It reinforces it and it validates what you've been feeling. Like it's like the connections have become really even more profound and stronger because the real life meeting has this additional, not that the connections were not strong enough between members, but with that, I think it was more like a really holistic experience. So it has been really phenomenal.
That's amazing. So as I introduced you as our pronunciation coach, obviously your background has inspired me to join your program. And a lot of the students from over 40 countries who joined your program and benefited from your program, they were inspired by your background. That's because you are a non-native English speaker who speaks fluently, confidently, with clarity and confidence.
Thank you.
Share a little bit about your background. How did you become the pronunciation coach?
Like I would have never imagined it to be the path that, like the path I walk in, because when I grew up, my dream was to be an actress. And then it has become like my dream to be an actress in New York City. That's what I wanted for myself until the age of 20. And that's when I moved to New York. And I never studied English properly. Just in school, I was not a great student anyway. I was exposed to TV series and shows only when I was like 14, which was good. Like I think this was a big part of my how I absorbed the language and the accent, but it wasn't enough. Like now kids from the age of 0 are exposed to English and to TV and music, and that wasn't the case for me so much. So when I moved to New York when I was 21, obviously like I was not, I didn't, I had a really distinct non-native accent, and again, like there is nothing wrong with it, but I wanted to be an actress, so I knew this was getting in my way of getting a lot of roles, because I would always get cast as someone like the foreigner, right? Like, or someone who is it's back then especially, there were not a lot of roles for people who were not American. So for me, acquiring an American accent was really critical for fulfilling my dream, which was to become an actress in New York. And I moved there and I worked there for a little bit, and I got accepted to an acting school, and I studied there for 3 years, 2 years, and then one more year of just practical practice. And in those years, this is where I trained as an actress and acquired the American accent. So like people like to call it, like some people call it accent reduction, but I don't like calling it like that because you're still speaking in an accent. It's just different than the accent that you used. And also, like, you don't need to reduce anything. You just learn another way of using English, which is what I did. I learned American pronunciation and other dialects of English. And honestly, like when I learned that, that's when it has opened up my ability to communicate freely, because pronunciation really wasn't just about how I sounded, but also how I showed up, how I used my voice, and my fluency overall. And that's where I'm like, there is a connection here that and that was like in the back of my mind. And years later, when I moved back home, that's when I wanted to explore the connection between pronunciation and fluency and confidence and all of that good stuff.
Yeah, it's so surprising. You developed such effective program in your own country, which is a non-English speaking environment. It
Yeah.
must be very challenging and hard. How long did it take you to really reach to your fluency that you feel you own this language, you have this absolute freedom of this language?
So I guess like when I was in school there for the 3 years that I went to school, still in New York, this is when I put everything into practice. I learned pronunciation. I used it. I also worked in English every night. So I think this is like the core part of my training, where I acquired, like that was like the 20% of the work that I put in that got me to 80% of the results. I think it was back then. But then, of course, when I moved away, there was a regression. Like I wasn't using English as much. And it took me some time to get back to it. So when I started teaching, at some point I said, like, I want to start teaching it. When I started teaching in Hebrew. Like I wasn't teaching in English because I wasn't confident enough to speak. I was confident teaching the sounds, but not speaking and explaining it.
Yeah.
Which is like, to me, it's insane to think about it now. Like, really? Yeah. To teach it in Hebrew. But yeah, that's where I was at. And it took me a lot, like a few years of doing this work, or maybe like a year, to build the confidence to use English consistently and build up my fluency again.
Yeah, I guess practice definitely helps, and it also takes time. It takes persistence.
It does. It does. It does. And the willingness to put yourself out there and to show up and to use it as much as possible.
Yeah. So there are a couple of things that about you that really inspires me, also resonates with me so much is your authenticity and your generosity. And
Mm.
you have been sharing your knowledge on the open space online and generously and inviting people to your program. Sometimes you provide a whole month, a whole week of free program. So what do you think this generosity plays a role in your program?
Mm. Well, it's a really good question. So, first of all, I love the energy that is connected to starting something new, where we get people from our, Influency community, which is our free community, or, people watching us on YouTube or Instagram, and kind of like we get everyone to pull together and come to one place where they can connect. Like, this has been one of the most rewarding things to see over and over and over again. And so, first of all, we just love it. We love getting people excited, whether they continue with us into the programs or not. The experience is really unique. And that's like in the DNA of the company, like to do these wild, exciting events or opportunities and seeing people connect from all around the world. And usually in those free events, there's a lot more diversity because we really do see people from all around the world because it's a free event. And
Mhm.
that's also a part of what we believe in. Not everyone can become our student, right? There are people living in certain places in the world where, the dollar is not worth the same as it is in the US, for example, or in Canada. So obviously, being able to provide a high level of content and experience to everyone is really a part of our mission, right? So that everyone can learn with us and everyone has access. However, we are aware that people want to continue and like get the support and the guidance beyond it. And this is where these events play a significant role because people get to see who we are and what we do. And then it's easier for them to make a decision if joining a program like New Sound or beyond is the right decision for them because they've seen how we work. They've received content, they've experienced some wins, and then usually it's also a good opportunity to be like, here's what we do, here's what we're good at. Would you like us to continue supporting you? So it really it functions as, it helps people who will not join us in the programs and also those who will and might need to see that extra example of how we teach.
I think your strategy definitely worked. And
Mm.
I still remember last year, I discovered other programs before yours, but as soon as I discovered your program, I think there's no other program is comparable. So I joined your program last year. I think it's just about a year. I still remember in the beginning I couldn't
Yeah.
pronounce world, or I was trying
Thank
to pronounce
you.
those hard words. But you have this effective method that is designed for the non-native English speakers. And also almost felt like it's tailored just for me or for someone, even though you have the same core program, it feels like it's tailored for everyone. It's so
I
good.
love it. Yes.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, that's, it's by design.
yeah. It's a great design. I think that has a lot to do with your generosity and your open mind nature,
Mm.
and that you lighted so many students in your
Mm.
program. And even now, after a year, I'm still a proud student of you and in your program. The reason is that I feel like even if I'm quite busy, even if I can attend one of your meetings, I feel like it's worth it because
And
you,
Mushan,
wow,
you always bring so much value to our sessions. Like you always have like a nice insight, or you're so very supportive. So just, it's a good opportunity to say that I'm so grateful for you and for all your participation and contribution to our community and our program.
Thank you. Thank you, Hadar.
You.
The other thing I felt so grateful is that when I joined your program, it's not just to correct the sounds that obviously I could make if I could go to other accent reduction programs, probably can get those sounds down. But what you provided is not just the temporary fix. You provided us a toolbox for all of us to carry around. So now I feel like I'm my own coach. I'm able to coach the people around me and tell you a bold decision I made just recently. I'm going to teach pronunciation at our Chinese school, like a weekend school. I'm going to run tests. Yeah.
Look at you.
So it's all because
be a light.
Yeah,
exactly.
Be a light.
Yeah.
Be a light. Because I have
love
been sharing what I learned from you. I was so excited to share, but I feel like people actually need a little push, need a structure to learn. Not a some people value free resources like you provide, but overall, if you really want to learn the program, you need to sign in the program. So I highly encourage whoever is watching or listening, check out Hadar's program. She does run periodic free courses, but if you want to get to the bones and soul of the program, you got to immerse yourself into it. So I know there are so many benefits that I can talk about your program, but what are the high points about your program that made it so successful in your own words?
Okay, that's a good question. So I think there are three things that set us apart and make the program so effective. So the first thing is like obviously pronunciation, but in a way that is simple, right? Like, because as a non-native speaker, when I teach pronunciation, I don't teach it like, here's what you need to hear, here's what you need to do, but I really teach it from the perspective of, here's why it's challenging to begin with, why there is a conflict there, and here's how you can overcome it. So that changes everything, in my opinion. And then with very clear instructions that are adapted to the person learning to pronounce, because for some people a very clear example of what the tongue is doing and the lips and the jaw is what they need, and others need to use an imagery. They would use it. So you got to give everything to everyone, then they will take whatever is useful. So simple pronunciation and intuitive pronunciation teaching is the first thing. The second thing would be mindset and confidence work, because I think that nothing, like, it's really hard to accomplish anything, but big things in particular, and getting to the next level in your speaking confidence, fluency, building habits, like all of that, that is essential for you to master a second language. It's something that you need to practice, train, and learn. You're not born with confidence, right? Like, you develop confidence. Confidence might be a result of your life experience, the way you think. How come people who have, the same childhood, one may have a lot of confidence and the other may have no confidence at all? Like, it really depends on experiences, what they were exposed to. And it's something that is learned, and we teach it, right? Like how to build confidence. We do a lot of thought work, and the environment allows people to really make big shifts. And the last thing is community and support. So community is huge. We believe in community learning, because when you practice a language, you cannot do it on your own. And when you do it with others, you need to want to speak for the sake of speaking, not for the sake of practicing your English. You want English to be the means, not the goal, right? If it's the goal, then you're just focused on speaking. And if it's the means, you want to connect, you want to create true relationships, you want to make it mean something. And you need English for it. And that's the purpose. And having a good, like, community and cultivating an environment where you feel safe and where people listen to you really brings out the best out of people. And they are much more capable of learning and retaining information when that is the situation. So that, along with exceptional support, which you probably know that this is something that we're obsessed about, making sure that we have a strong team that supports our students and a team of coaches. So I think that's the last thing. And I do think that these three things together create a really transformative experience, because I think that's what people need to get to the next level.
I totally agree. I think you summarized it so well. I know there are so many things I want to be grateful for, but this is putting into the structure is definitely much more visual. The technical skills we can learn from the program, and also the mindset, because how we think determines how we act and how we result. And also, yeah, the community. I'm the community person. I love it. To be honest, I was so happy in the community. And also now, even after a year, I still stay close with the community, because there are so many talented people. Just because English is their second language, but they are so talented in so many ways. And then they are able to express themselves, tell the world about their talent through English. It's just amazing. And
yes,
I agree, including today, you spend your precious time to support me. This is not something, your job, you are required to do, but in the traditional coaching or teaching or other programs, they may consider, okay, you got to pay for that. And also many of the coaches modeled your personality and with caring and the kindness, generosity. They're always there for us. I remember last year, I had one incident with the misunderstanding with someone in life. And I reached out to Christina about the sentence, because I received some information from, even from my husband, from someone close. It's different. So when I get it from Christina, I know she's professional, and also she is objective, and she would give me the best answer. And she responded to me right away. And that really helped me a lot. Yeah. I loved all those stories. Yeah.
It's like it really matters, because I think that, first of all, we love people, like we love people. So it's not a question of, oh, is this what we do, or is this practical or not? If one of our students needs us, we will be there for them. And when they celebrate a win, or when something good happens, we celebrate it. Like, we have a channel on Slack, like the where we communicate, where we just share students' wins. If we get an email, if we see a post, if someone posts a video sharing something good that happened to them thanks to English, or thanks to this newfound confidence, then it's like, this is the essence of why we do it. So we make a point of really acknowledging it and celebrating it within the team as well.
Yeah, the sincere care and love throughout the community definitely makes a big difference.
Yes.
Because we feel good, feel supported. As you mentioned, that when we feel safe, we feel supported, and in our environment, we tend to practice more. We don't. Yeah, we will lose this fear. Instead, we will focus on what we can accomplish, what we can improve. I love that.
And we enjoy it. We enjoy it a lot more.
Yeah. Thank you for creating such kindness kingdom of Hadar community. Yeah. So I know you just recently moved from Israel to Barcelona. And what do you think about teaching pronunciation, running your program contributed to your decision in such a big decision, like relocating to a total different country, and then you need to start over to learn the language?
Yeah. I think, relocating in general is such a humbling experience because you feel like, oh, I have it all figured out. My life is comfortable. And all of a sudden, you have to reinvent yourself on so many levels. So, definitely when it comes to the language, when I was very confident both in my native language and in English, and all of a sudden I come here and no one speaks either. And my Spanish is, like I understand, but I can't speak. And a lot of people speak Catalan here. So it's like even more so, like I can't even sometimes distinguish between the two languages when they speak fast. And that was like at the beginning. So it was very, very humbling. Like I thought I was a big shot, right? But I know nothing. I know nothing. And I've got a lot to learn. And I think this is a really good thing for me, even though I wish I could snap my fingers and speak the language fluently. Like doing this work, finding time, doing whatever I ask my students to do is really what I need. And I've been so busy that I have under prioritized it. Like it wasn't my top priority, but now moving forward, starting from June, like this is a high priority for me. But in general, both the language and, making friends and learning how to work from here. Luckily, I have a digital business, so nothing significant has changed. I used to have a studio, now I don't. I work from home. So that has changed, but nothing big has changed at work for me. So I'm very lucky. I think there are a lot of people who go through what I have and they have to find a new job and they have to, figure out how to translate what they did into a new country. And that to me is really like so brave. So luckily for me, I could keep my work and my daily routine coming here.
Yeah, I gotta say you are so courageous and so brave. What actually made you so open-minded and so outgoing and so adventurous?
Well, I have moved away from home when I was 21. So I have lived in New York for 5 years and I always wanted to come back to travel again, to live elsewhere, especially when I had my girls. And like as a family, I was like, I want us to live somewhere together and experience this international to go through this international experience. But I also wanted it for my girls, like the language. I wanted them to immerse themselves in English, in Spanish, and to see the possibilities this world has to offer. Because when you are born in a certain place and you're comfortable with your own community and that's all it's great. There are a lot of advantages in it. But for me, I also wanted to make sure that they have this additional experience so they know that if they want to explore the world or to see that there are more people and different people in the world, it's possible for them. And again, like I said, I'm lucky to be able to do that and just relocate myself, but still keep my job, keep my hours, keep everything. So it was
I
it
guess.
was it was a comfortable, it was a courageous decision, but also I think that we're very privileged to do it in a way that is not too risky.
Yeah, I guess that's the best parenting tip is to really show the kids the world,
Yeah.
creating this open space for them, as well as to teach them how to be resilient, to adapt to
Yeah.
different culture, different language, and face different challenges.
100%. Like the fear of not moving a child because it's going to be hard for them to adapt is legit. I had it. I've experienced it, but I'm not afraid of it. Like I think it's good for them, even though we do have harsh morning here's and harsh evenings sometimes, and like with a lot of frustration. But it's a good change, and struggling with making new friends is a good thing because as when you go out into the world, you'll have to learn how to make friends and how to connect with new people and how to adapt to new environments. And the more you have that as a child, the more equipped you are as an adult.
Yeah, I agree. So you actually created the videos about multiple countries. The speakers speak another language, has their particular challenges. How did you develop those? Did you find all
Ooh.
those students, and did you do all the survey to find out?
Oh, that's a good question. So I studied linguistics and phonology in particular. So phonology is how the sounds are organized in the brain and how like you perceive sound. So phonetics is how you produce sounds, and phonology is what's happening in the brain when
Yeah.
you speak a language, how sounds are represented. And I've analyzed a lot of languages, and by analyzing is like to look at the phonological features. For example, in Japanese, for example, the every syllable ends up with an open vowel, except for certain syllables that end with a nasal sound, right? So that is a rule that exists across the language, Japanese. So I know that a speaker that's a feature in their language would struggle with pronouncing clusters because it doesn't exist in their language. And if English has it, I can tell that it's going to be a challenge, right? So just by comparing the phonology of one language versus another, you can tell what the person is going to struggle with, which is what we did and what I did when I was looking into. Now, of course, having the experience of working with many students from around the world, like I know I can hear just imagining, their how they speak, like I know what the challenges are. Same thing with sounds. You look at all the sounds that exist in, let's say, Brazilian Portuguese and English, and you can see, oh, there is no sound in the standard dialect. That's going to be a challenge, right? So you can tell by just understanding the languages, and that is enough. Like you don't have to work with someone to know what would be challenging. But of course, like I said, having the experience definitely helped.
Yeah, your program resonated with me a lot. It's also because your explanation was so, as you said, so simple and so easily digestible. And also it's so feel like, oh, it's customized for my language, for my challenges.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember
Oh, I'm glad you liked it.
I worked with you so many times on the L and the N sound, because it's not
Right.
just my challenge in English, it's the challenge in my first language. I always loved that because of that sound in my first language, Mandarin, because I'm from a small village in Hunan, and we speak with such a strong accent that we couldn't differentiate L and the N sound. And I even didn't know the dark L sound until I attended your program. And my husband, my daughter, they are native English speakers. For years, they couldn't help me to pronounce the L sound, like the word.
Look at how well you pronounce it now.
Yeah, I just found it's magical. Your program is magical. And in the beginning, my husband was skeptical because he said, there are so many resources, open resources, free resources online. Why you couldn't just learn by your own?
Right.
But what I found is you have this knowledge that many confident native English speaker teachers don't have. It's your understanding, your deep understanding about the students' struggles and their challenges. And your program was designed just for them. So I just loved that.
Thank you.
There's one thing I learned from your program I want to share is habit.
Yes.
You emphasize the importance of habit and the structure.
Yes.
And that's the detail part of why your program worked so well for busy people like me, or some people who are not very structured, is because you dissect it to small pieces. And so it's digestible. And every day you do this, eventually you develop a habit. Even now, as
Right.
I mentioned, I'm very busy, but the minimum I do is I need to do the sprint, like everyday sprint. So I
And
love that.
because it's like we have to learn how we operate as human beings, right? Like and when it's clear to us what we need to do and it's limited, right? There is a clear beginning, middle, and end, like the sprint, or like the recommended daily practice in New Sound. It's easier for people to do it, to make a commitment and do it because they have more clarity. And people are usually not taking action. People usually don't take action when it's really vague, like what they need to do, how long it's going to take them, and then they just avoid, right? And then they can't build a habit. But
Yeah.
once you build the habit, then it's easier for you to get through the program, finish it, and then you see results. There are a lot of amazing programs out there that people buy and they do 10% out
Yeah.
of them.
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, it doesn't work. Well, if you did it, it might have worked. So sometimes it's really like a big part of planning a program is making sure that people know how to get to the finish line, which is a big part in how we design our programs.
Yeah, I definitely see the value, see it's a huge value. And I encourage other people to join your program because yeah, it's so tailored for everyone's needs.
Mm.
I okay, outside of programs, business, and learning, I know you are a forever learner,
Yes.
model that for your students like me. What are your hobbies in life?
Oh my goodness.
I
Uh,
know probably you don't have time for that.
well, one of my hobbies is to eat good food in restaurants. Like that's a serious hobby that I have. I love good food. I'm very lucky to be now in Barcelona to explore all the really good restaurants that there are here. Um, I love like unfortunately, like I really don't. I've been thinking about it. I was like, hey, I have a hobby and I need to develop one. I used to I used to play the piano when I was at home. And like I like running in the morning, walking in the street. So like this is something that is a big part of my life. Like I but I don't have like another skill that I develop. When I have extra time, I really just either take it for myself or I rest or I generally spend time with the girls because most of my day is around work, and I love my work. Like I'm passionate about it. It fulfills me, right? Like I a lot of times I don't need that extra thing. I just need to rest, take some time for myself. But I do feel like I need to do more things that are for me, like more whether it's to meditate more or to be to spend some social time with people, to read more. I do feel like this is something that I want to develop now that I'm here.
Just to challenge yourself, right?
Yeah, challenge myself with hobbies.
With
Exactly.
hobbies when you're so busy. Yeah. And well, since you are the coach here, and I do want to invite you to leave something super, super valuable to our audience before you leave. What message you would like to share with whoever has this fear and also in the processing on their journey to reach their English fluency or different language fluency?
Yeah. I want people to know that they have a lot more power than they think they do. And it's really in how they think about themselves, what they're capable of, and how they show up in front of others. Like I think like they have a lot more power. It's not a question of talent, if you get the language quickly or not. It's not even, of course it's a matter of practice, but also practice is a result of how you think about it. Because if you think that it's going to be really hard for you, there's no way you're going to want to practice or build the habit. So I even say like what matters is how you think about it and how you approach it, and to really clean up, to recognize all the beliefs about what's not possible and like the, oh, I don't feel like it, or it's really hard and it sucks and it's boring. And it's like, these are really limiting thoughts that ultimately affect how you feel, and then the actions that you take, and usually, or inactions, right? Like usually that doesn't lead to any action, and then there is no progress. So a lot of it really begins in your approach and your beliefs, and a serious review of how you think about yourself, what you're capable of. You know, a lot of people believe that they're inherently inferior to native speakers simply because they weren't born into the language. So again, like, but of course, people think it's just an observation of the world, right? Like, but I'm not a native speaker, so I don't have the same. No, you are always equal to anyone, no matter what language you speak, or how well your grammar is, how good your grammar is, or how well you speak, or, you know, how you sound like. Doesn't matter if you replace the R with another sound, or you're still worthy and you still deserve to be heard, and to people need to hold space for you, and to wait if you need a little bit of extra time. You just, like, you deserve all that. And I think that once people understand that, if they think anything that is not that, they need to do some really deep soul search and thought audit to understand why they're not thinking this way, and what can they do to start having this profound understanding that speaking a second language is a huge privilege. And it's an incredible ability, whether it's B2, A2, C1, it doesn't matter. Like, being able to communicate with other people. So, like, more celebration and less, you know, self-doubt and self-sabotage.
Yeah, that's great. Something I forgot, there's one piece I want to share with our audience is Hadar actually helped with the Google pronunciation tool, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I want to say that I was so impressed. Our coach Hadar actually contributed the development of that tool.
Yeah, I did develop the way the words are represented, like the phonetic, the loose transcription, which is used by millions of people around the world. And also, like, the feedback that you get when you practice. It's not ideal because of the system and the algorithm, but yeah, I was a big part in developing it, which was a huge privilege. It's my students. So I used to teach at Google, and my students got so excited about pronunciation that they were like, let's develop something. And they actually developed it. And then they brought me to help them with that.
Yeah, I love that. Okay, to respect your time, I know you have another meeting coming up soon. If there's one tip for practicing English, what would you suggest? Now,
speak as much as possible. Just speak. Get yourself out there and speak. Find partners, speak to yourself. Don't wait. Don't put most of the work into learning. Put most of your effort into producing. 100%. That would be my biggest piece of advice.
Thank you so much, Hadar. You have made such a big impact on me personally. And also today, I have this privilege to have you here to share your brilliant ideas and programs and your journey with our audience. Many people will be so grateful for your insights. Thank you so much to be here with me to share your experience.
Thank you, Muxiang. And being here with you is also a, you know, like, it's a huge moment or a milestone for celebrating you and how much you have come along, you know, like because I remember that when we first met a year ago, that was like a dream of yours, that and you know, the follow-up dreams. And I feel like this is it. Like, it's happening, it's working, and you're doing the work, and you are amazing. So thank you for this as well.
I remember starting a podcast was one of my goals when I was sharing
there
that.
You go. And
And
I'm on
now
my
here I
podcast.
am.
I'm on your podcast.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Hadar. And for the listeners and the viewers, thank you so much for your time to joining us for this less than an hour, but it's a valuable conversation. If you like my podcast, please share and spread the wisdom with the people around you. They will thank you. Okay, see you next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.